Welcome to Plant-Based Eating for Health with your host, certified plant-based nutritionist, Kathleen Gage.
Well, hello, everybody. This is Kathleen Gage with Plant-Based Eating for Health. And today I am really excited to be talking with Danielle Dinkelman. She actually has been plant-based for quite a while. And not only is she plant-based, she's certified in health and nutrition. And her life's work is all about working with women, helping them to have more balance in their life and to understand the power behind a plant-based lifestyle. So with that, Danielle, great to have you here.
Thanks, Kathleen. I'm excited.
So let us start with, how did you get involved in plant-based eating? How long have you been plant-based, and why is that important to you?
Yeah, sure. Plant-based kind of ended up being like the final cherry on top of a big health and wellness journey for me personally. But yeah, plant-based came along in January of 2017 is when my husband and I decided, okay, yeah, let's do this. We had 4 little kids at the time, and we thought, this really could be that missing piece, because we had figured out so many other things up to that point of exercise and a lot of emotional, mental wellness things too. And we had kind of gone to whole food and clean eating, probably back in 2015. And I can't say that we felt amazingly better or different after just going to kind of whole foods, clean eating. But man, when we went plant-based, it really changed how we felt almost immediately. And so, I think we all have our reasons. For me, it was watching Forks Over Knives. And I have a lot of cardiovascular disease in my family history. So, I watched my grandparents deal with heart attacks and strokes and these things. And I always thought that would be kind of a given for me, that was going to be in my future. Because I was from this mindset that, it's just all genetics, right? So this idea, watching the Forks Over Knives documentary, really opened my eyes and made me think, I have control over my health outcomes, on a whole new level. I know it was a good idea to eat a good diet. I know it was good to be active and fit, but really that we could actually control our health outcomes way more than we ever thought possible. That was just thrilling to me.
It's interesting because I just saw something on Facebook. It was a meme about how we think that the diseases we have are genetic, and really what they are is they're passed down through lifestyle habits. And I think about my own family. We had a lot of cancer, a lot of diabetes. I actually was at very high risk for colon cancer. They found some precancerous polyps in me, breast cancer, and so I bought into this whole belief, it's just genetics. And then when I discovered plant-based eating, not quite as long ago as you, but it was Forks Over Knives. It was Eat to Live by Dr. Joel Fuhrman. It was, there was a book, Eat Green, Make Green, and by trying to think the gentleman's name, but it was about how when you eat healthy, you can do better in business. And I'm curious, because you said that your husband and you both went plant-based. Was that, who led? Was it you who decided to, or he? What was the deal there?
It was definitely me. I am a pretty ambitious kind of go-getter type of personality, and my husband is a very chill, go with the flow, comfort-seeking sort of personality. So yeah, it was me initially, but he's also, he's extremely reasonable and he's a smart guy. So, when you really see that there's science out there that no one's ever heard of until you actually read the books or watch the documentaries, it makes a pretty compelling argument. So we kind of went back and forth for a little while. If he had questions, and so I didn't have the answer, so I had to go look, I had to go find it, and we'd come back and just again and again we would have conversations, and he could tell that I felt really strongly about this, not only for my own health, but also for our kids. I knew that my genetics were my grandparents, and I knew that my kids were connected to that too. And I just felt so strongly that this was something we needed to do. And eventually, after a lot of conversations and a lot of research, we both kind of came to that same conclusion that, this is one of the best things we could do for ourselves and our kids.
So you have 4 kids, and what are their ages?
So right now, my oldest is 11 and my youngest is 4.
And are they plant-based eaters?
They are, yeah. So we are 100% at home But there's more to that answer.
Okay. And I would assume, and before I ask you this next question, I want to remind people that this is Kathleen Gage with Plant-Based Eating for Health. I'm talking with Danielle Dinkelman, and I want to remind you to subscribe to this channel, hit the like button, hit the thumbs up, and you will get notified of future videos that we put out. But with the whole issue of your kids being plant-based, do you ever get pushback from family and friends saying, oh, well, what about the protein? How do they get their protein? And they need meat and they need whatever. What's the deal there?
Oh, absolutely. It's hard. That has definitely been a sticking point in a few relationships. I won't go into too much detail. But yes, absolutely. There's been some concerned parties about whether that really is the best thing for kids. And again, every time I came up against someone asking a question or having some doubts, it pushed me to go and find the answers, not only to give them, but to really reassure myself of like, no, I'm not crazy. This really is a good thing to do. So, it's definitely been met with some adversity and some conflict, but I feel like we've gotten through it. I feel like I've done enough of my research that I can kind of hold my ground on it and share the fact that actually, the calcium you're worried about my kids getting, or the protein you're worried about my kids getting, or the vitamin D, I can now tell them, actually you can get calcium from leafy greens. Vitamin D comes from the sun, and protein is in every plant food that grows on this planet, and we're going to be just fine. So it was tricky in the beginning, but.
Right. Well, you're a nationally board certified health and wellness coach. When did you get your certification?
Yeah, so I've done 3 levels of training in health and wellness coaching. So I started in February of 2018, and it's a growing field. And there's this new, since 2017, they've had a national board exam that you can go and study for and sit for, but you have to get 2 levels of certifications first before you can go sit for the exam. And then the exam itself is quite a process. So I went through all of those things, and I passed the board in June of 2019. So. Okay.
Well, and I'm curious, I want to go back to the whole issue with your children, because I know that's a sticking point with a lot of people. And my niece is very into health and nutrition. She has super healthy kids, and she does everything that's kind of counterintuitive to what we've been taught. And, a lot of pushback from the family, and she has stuck with her guns. She's just like, no, this is what I believe to be true. And her kids are just incredibly healthy. What's the health level of your children?
Oh man, I feel so blessed. We don't get sick often. Like you can tell that our immune systems are rocking. And I can tell as the mom, from before we went plant-based to after we went plant-based, the thing that made me really commit to doing this was that I actually did some experiments on my children of, okay, I'm hearing some things. I watched, one of the kickers for me was Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead. Have you seen that one?
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
He has some awesome just like illustrations of how the immune system works and how it interacts with food, how food impacts that. And he was really, in that film, he really targets sugar and animal products, especially dairy, right? So I watched that film, and it was the middle of cold and flu season. So this was fall of 2016. And I thought, okay, I'm going to try this out. So whenever our kids started to like come home with a stuffy nose, or they started to cough or whatever, I said, okay, we're going to try this experiment. We're going to go no sugar, no dairy. And here's your juices, like fresh fruit and vegetable juices from my juicer. And here's your smoothies. And here's 2 servings of vegetables at dinner. And I just pounded the fruits and veggies. And I took away the sugar and the dairy. And I said, we're just going to do this until you get better. And my kids thought I was a little nuts, but we did it anyway. And oh my goodness, we went from kind of the norm. For us, I don't know how it is for most families, but for us, it would take at least 7 to 10 days for any kid, or even myself or my husband, to get over a cold, right? Mm-hmm. And when I did this experiment and I pushed the plants and I took away the sugar and the dairy, we went to 3 to 5 days recovery. And I was shocked. I was so excited. And that was part of the impetus of talking to my husband and saying, there's really something to this. And that has really held true over the last 3 years that we've been plant-based, that we do not get sick very often. We're not invincible, but we do not get sick nearly as many times as we used to. And when we do get sick, we recover pretty quickly.
Well, and that actually leads into my next question to do with COVID-19, because, that's a big topic for a lot of people. And right now we're seeing our administration is being diagnosed. And we know that at the top, the diet isn't the best. That's just a fact of life. How important do you think plant-based eating is to minimizing one's risk with complications? Because they had huge outbreaks in factory farms. They had huge outbreaks in dairy farms. And people wanted to put that on the back burner. But my job is to bring it to the forefront and say, wait a minute, we need to really look at this. So in your opinion, and through your experience being certified, how important is it that we look at the risks that we put ourselves under when we do eat animal-based products?
Oh, man. I absolutely think it matters. I completely agree with you that it matters. And I completely agree with you that not only people that are probably, like you say, kind of at the top of our government, our leadership, probably don't have the healthiest diet. I would
McDonald's.
say that's probably true for most Americans, though, let's be honest.
Yes, that's true.
So I really think that everyone is at risk when we don't tend to our nutrition. We are probably walking around with suppressed immune systems. And we know that plants support and strengthen the immune system. And we know that animal products and processed foods, especially sugary and fatty processed foods, create inflammation in our body, which compromises our immune system. That is like what I could just water down all the science to be right there.
Right.
So absolutely. And, I don't think you and I are going to convince the whole world overnight that everybody should go plant-based right away. But I do think that even if we got this message out, if more people could talk about this in an accessible way, even those people that are eating totally standard American fast food diet, even if they added a green smoothie, even if they forewent one pizza that week,
right.
Any step in this direction is going to benefit us. It's not going to make you invincible, but it will benefit us. We've really seen, I'm sure you've dove into this science, but I love like Dr. Esselstyn's work, Dr. Ornish's work. You look at the studies here and you look at their numbers, and what I see there is dose-dependent results, right? So if you remember, in the Esselstyn program and in the Ornish program, when they put people on a plant-based diet, they tracked how compliant these people were. Mm-hmm. And the most compliant people got the most results. The middle of the road compliance got middle of the road results. We're still reversing heart disease though, right? And then even people that were the least compliant, they still either halted their disease or made improvements. You can look at those numbers, crack open those books and see the graphs on there. It's amazing. So that's a message that I feel really passionate about, of sharing with people that, hey, yeah, plant-based, I'm all in. I'm all 100% in. But, my friends, my neighbors, my extended family, if I can even just be an example of a few tweaks that they could make, I will be over the moon if they just make some small changes, because our body responds to that dose, even if it's a small
Absolutely.
dose.
Well, and it's exciting because friends and family now come to me and they say, oh, I tried this plant-based menu and I think you'll really like it. And years ago, I didn't cook. I just didn't like to cook. And when I went plant-based, I started experimenting, and I made this amazing soup over the weekend, but it's just my taste buds have changed and my desire to cook has changed. And what's interesting, when you talked about inflammation, that was the reason I went plant-based. I was 64 at the time, and I was a runner, but not a fast runner. Have never been a fast runner. I picked up the sport in my 60s, but my recovery time was terrible. And my wrist would hurt. I'm a writer, and I got really bad pain in my wrist. So I started doing some research, and I realized that if I put more plants in my diet, maybe I would minimize the inflammation. Well, being an all or nothing kind of person, I've been sober for 36 years. So for me, it's like black and white. And I get that for a lot of people, it's not. But I decided, okay, I'm going to try it for 7 days. That was it. If nothing happens in 7 days, I'm going back to the way I was. Well, not only did I lose about 7 pounds in 7 days without dieting, my inflammation disappeared within a couple of days. I had more energy. My recovery time on running, I was like, this is crazy. My legs aren't hurting like they were. I'm recovering faster. So I thought, okay, another 7 days. Well, that was over 2 years ago. And but what's so interesting too, Danielle, is that for me, it's also about the animals, because I work within the pet industry. I'm a keynote speaker. I'm a MC for virtual events now because of COVID. And one day it hit me that here I rescue animals. I love animals. I raise awareness around animal and animal abuse and all that. And I eat animals. It's like, oh, there is such a disconnect here. So does that have any impact for you, the compassion to animals? Is that any part of why you're plant-based?
Oh, I love that question. So the short answer is yes. I've heard it said before, and I really resonate with this, that I went plant-based for my health, but I stay plant-based for the animals.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
And I also feel that way about the planet too, the environment. I mean, when you learn about the impact that animal agriculture has on our planet, it's astounding that we all still do it. So absolutely, yes. And which is crazy a little bit in perspective. It's crazy for me to say that yes, I stayed plant-based for the animals, because I was actually raised by hunters and fishermen, and I grew up hunting and fishing and loving it. But you know, what I really loved was the outdoors, and what I really loved was spending time with my family. And yeah, so that's, I feel really strongly about that. And for me, it's like what you noticed, right? You kind of have like that cognitive dissonance of, wait a minute, I say this and I feel this about animals, and yet what makes these animals different, and why am I eating them? I think most of us in our culture, we're raised with that just being a fact of life. Yes, there is this cognitive dissonance that you love your cat and your dog, but you eat the cows and the chickens. And we kind of get duped into accepting that culturally. But once you figure out plant-based nutrition, once you see that it helps your running recovery, or it just helps you feel better, and then you lean into it, and then it's like, oh, I don't have to have that cognitive dissonance anymore. Now I'm so grateful that I eat plant-based. Sometimes you have to start it for your health, and then you stay for the animals.
I love that. Starting for your health and staying for the animals. And, you know, energetically, I believe so much in energy, and what we put into our body becomes our energy. And with all the steroids they put in the factory farmed animals, the antibiotics, no wonder we're so antibiotic resistant. But how can people find you before we continue on? What's your web address?
Yeah, so it's actually my name. It's DanielleDinkelman.com.
Okay, and we'll be putting that in the show notes so that people can easily find you. And with your coaching that you do, you work with women who really want to have balance in life. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so I mostly work with mostly women. I do work with some men, and yeah, we work one-on-one, and we also have a group coaching option for people that need that. It's a little easier on the budget for that. But oh man, I love coming side by side with another human being that has been on the roller coaster, especially the dieting thing. And I love coming side by side with them and helping them navigate this in a new way. Because when you embrace plant-based nutrition, there also needs to be other layers with it, right? It is getting active and being fit. It's being honest with, how's your quality of sleep? How's your stress management? There's a holistic nature that we will get more benefit out of plant-based nutrition if we're looking at the big picture of health. And then the mindset piece of it, of being able to step into these new habits rather than trying to say, oh, I hired this health coach and so I'm starting this diet tomorrow.
Right.
No, just don't. I really try to help my clients, men and women alike, to let go of the old dieting tactics tactics and the dieting mindsets, and step into this in a really reasonable, sustainable way. Because I'm way more interested in helping people do this for the long run and put the habits in place that will have it last for forever and that they will love it, rather than, you know, get them to the point that they can be perfect for a short amount of time, get some really quick results, but then I call it the rubber band effect. It's like stretching that rubber band so far that it's really just a matter of time before it snaps you back in the face. I really am trying to help people avoid that.
So the question is, when you went plant-based, were you overweight at all? Have you ever dealt with weight issues? What about your husband, any of your kids? Because myself, I dropped 35 pounds without trying. I've been a yo-yo dieter all my life. My heaviest weight is about 60 pounds heavier than I am right now. And this is the first time in my life I don't diet. I just, you know, and it's funny because I still have people say, are you on that crazy diet? It's like, no, I'm on a lifestyle. And it's seriously, I've tried the Master Cleanse. I've tried the keto. I've tried the Atkins. You name it, I've tried it all. And finally I gave up on it. And I just thought, okay, I'm getting older. I'm in my 60s. That's just a part of being a woman in your 60s. You gain weight, you get the pot belly, blah, 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 all the blah, blahs that we tell ourselves. So for you, what changed in your health? Because one thing I love about the show is that when I interview people, 99.9% of them, they are healthy, they are fit, they're trim, and it's not about dieting. It's about a lifestyle. So tell us about your experience.
Yeah, kind of our background with that. So I can't say that I've ever felt like I was overweight, but I'm definitely trimmer now than I ever was before. Like I look at pictures of myself, even back in high school, and I'm just kind of soft and pudgy. And
I was going to say the word pudgy. We all, I think we all go through that. It's like, oh, that was pudgy.
Yeah. And I never really looked at it as, oh, I'm overweight. And I never ever thought, oh, I need to go on a diet. Health and wellness honestly was not even on my radar when I was in high school. I thought all my friends that were on the cross country team were nuts. I was a musician. All I cared about was just, getting my good grades in school and going and playing my instrument and having fun doing that. But yeah, I look back at pictures, high school, pregnancies, my first few pregnancies, and yeah, I feel like I'm in a different body and definitely in a different state of health and fitness now than I've ever been before. For my husband, he has struggled. He's never been, obese, but he's always had some extra luggage that he's carrying around.
We call it love handles.
Yes. And so he, it was interesting when we went plant-based. One of the big changes for us was we went from thinking extra virgin olive oil was like God's gift to the earth, to saying, oh, we're actually going to learn how to water saute our vegetables. We're going to make pancakes with applesauce instead of oil. You learn these little tips and tricks. And so just after, I want to say a week or two after going no oil, my husband dropped 10 pounds. Without even thinking or trying. He kind of looked at me like, what have you been feeding me? Or what have you not been feeding me? And I was like, it's the oil. I took the oil out. It was amazing. So his body responded really quickly to that. And he isn't 100% with me in this, but when he does want to kind of trim down more, he will kind of rein it in a little bit on the snack food and the treats and things. And when he's really compliant, whole food, plant-based, his body responds really well. And he also, I think I would say that he's probably in the better health of his history. So it's been neat to see that benefit him.
Right. Well, one of the things that I did early on is I got the book Eat to Live, and I've given out so many copies of that book by Dr. Joel Fuhrman, and I'll make sure to put the link below. But in there, he talked about the no SOS, and that was how I started from the beginning. I got rid of processed sugar, added processed oil. I eat avocados and I eat nuts, and then the added salt. And I used to be a sugar addict. It was like my big deal was I'd get a box of donuts and I would plan out over the next hour when I would eat a donut per, every 10 minutes. Seriously, that's why I gained so much weight. And if anybody dared to take one of my donuts, I was livid. It's like, no. And so I'd go get another box. I mean, crazy. That's the addictive part of my personality. But no oil, processed oil, has made all the difference in the world. And I'm really glad to hear you say that. So on an average day, what would be your eating protocol for you and your children and your husband?
Oh, yeah. So let's see. I'll just speak for myself because my husband finds his variations, my kids find theirs. But for me, favorite breakfast is just some quick oats, oatmeal, wild blueberries, a little bit of almond milk, a little bit of date syrup, salt and cinnamon. So I'm not 100% strict on the salt. And that works fine for me. So, so that's my breakfast. I find when I eat whole food plant-based, I need to eat more often through the day. And I feel like people don't realize that it's okay to snack if it's a healthy whole food plant-based snack. So I usually have a mid-morning, like substantial snack. It's usually like some oil-free, have you ever seen Mary's Gone crackers?
No.
They're awesome. Mary's Gone crackers.
I'm writing it down.
Yeah, they're oil-free and they're whole grain, no sugar, no salt. So I have those and some homemade hummus and sometimes some crackers and hummus too. So that's my mid-morning snack. And then lunch is usually, my favorite lunch is whole wheat tortilla, homemade hummus, all the veggies and greens I can find in my fridge, usually like carrots, bell pepper, onion, some salad greens, and then I just love putting a little bit of salsa on that, and I make a couple of those, and that's my lunch. If I need an afternoon snack, if I'm being like really on top of it, I'll make a green smoothie and have some of that. And then dinner, oh man, it's a vegetable stew, or it's a vegetable stir fry over brown rice, or it's whole grain pasta spaghetti, or a cauliflower Alfredo, Indian food, Mexican food. Like, nice. I feel like we eat such a beautiful variety of flavors and spices and fruits and vegetables. I just love it. It's been fun. We just made a lentil masala for dinner last night, and I'm cooking that and we're serving that up, and my husband and I just both love it. And we will often say to ourselves, like, look what we've been missing out on for the first 30 years of our lives. Like, oh, there's so much flavor out there outside of the standard American diet that we had such a narrow palate. It was like grilled cheese sandwiches, hamburgers, and pizza. It was like so bland and so, I don't know, just all boring. And now I feel like we have this whole vocabulary now.
Well, what's nice is that you're starting at the age that you've started at. And so by the time you get to my age, quite seriously, you're going to be so healthy and you're going to shatter all the illusions of what it means to get old. Because, you know, as I thought the other day, I'm 3.5 years away from 70. And it's like, huh? How did that happen? And I want to be one of those ladies that in my 70s and 80s and beyond, people are going, what a rock star. She's amazing. Look at what she can do. And, you know, I just saw my mother die a terrible death. It was a long drawn out. It was due to her habits. And I just don't want to do that. So before we close up, again, people can reach you at your website, Danielle Dinkelman, and I will put that link down below. And this is Kathleen Gage with Plant-Based Eating for Health. I've had the opportunity to speak with Danielle Dinkelman, who is a certified coach, and she works with women and some men, getting them balanced in their life. So what are your parting thoughts for people who are thinking of going plant-based and they're just thinking, okay, you know, it's so expensive, because truth be told, it's less expensive to eat whole food plant-based than it is to eat meat. What are your parting thoughts for people?
Oh, for people that kind of are thinking about it, wanting to get started. I guess I want to let people know that it's okay to do it in your way. You know, me and Kathleen were kind of like hardcore, kind of intense personalities. So, I mean, I was ready to go. Like, as soon as I watched Forks Over Knives, I was ready to just like tear my freezer apart and just start throwing stuff away or giving it away. And my husband, he's more of a, like I said, he's an easygoing guy. He's comfort seeking, and that's his personality. And I love that about him. And we had a different idea of how to go about doing this. And I just want to give people permission to find their way of going into this. Is it step by step, or is it all overnight? It's going to be different depending on our personalities. And that's a big thing that I pull into my coaching a lot, is there's really no such thing as one size fits all, because we are so unique in our personalities, in our experiences up to this point. So finding your way is way better than finding the way. And it's okay to find that.
I love that. I love that. Well, this is Kathleen Gage with Plant-Based Eating for Health, and you can find us at plantbasedeatingforhealth.com. That's plantbasedeatingforhealth.com. And I've had the distinct privilege of speaking with Danielle Dinkelman, and you can find her website listed below. We'll make sure that we put that in the show notes. And thank you so much for what you're doing. I so appreciate that you're raising the awareness and that you're raising your children in such a healthy way. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Kathleen.
Thank you for your commitment to an ethical life through plant-based food choices. The kind of choices that are kind to your body, the environment, and most of all, animals. Be sure to leave a review and rating of the Plant-Based Eating for Health podcast show.